Alright, next up we have the Nintendo DS. We have Resident Evil Deadly Silence, which is Resident Evil DS. Check out the back there. Now, this game is something I think a lot more Resident Evil fans should pick up. This essentially is Resident Evil 1 on PS1, or you can basically play like the DS version, which includes like different item locations and it has a bunch of different puzzles and stuff like that. And the stuff that they include in the DS version only is amazing and really awesome. They also have a first person view, which you think would be kind of weird, but it works out surprisingly well and it makes the knife a force to be reckoned with. But yeah, if you're going to play any version of Resident Evil 1, with the exception of the GameCube remake, this is the version that you want to play, because this packs in a whole ton of content and is definitely worth your time. Next we have Dementium, the Ward. This here is a first-person style game on the DS, which at the time that this was made was honestly amazing. A lot of people didn't think that they could achieve something really great within like a 3D world on the DS, and this game did it. It's really good. It's not perfect by any means, but for what it is, I think it's actually really great. And if you're bored and you want to play something different, I think it's only like $5. So yeah, you gotta pick it up. Next, moving on to Xbox One, we have Doom 3, limited edition. Now, all the versions of Doom that had ever come out, essentially Doom was, run around and shoot stuff. That's really it. It was really fast-paced, find a key, go on to the next section, there's a boss, shoot shit out of that, go on, shoot more stuff, and that's really it. This game decided to take the pace, slow it down, and make it so that it was really scary. All the areas are dark, enemies are popping out, scaring the shit out of you and everything. So I thought it was cool for that, but the thing is, it's such a far cry from like Doom anything really, from Doom, Final Doom, Doom 2, things like that. But yeah, it's still a really good game and really awesome for what it is, so it's worth checking out. Next we have Fatal Frame. Now I know you may have seen this on the PS2 and I just showed it off, but this version is probably a lot better just because A, it's nicer looking, and I don't know. I just kind of prefer playing this one. Maybe it's because I just like seeing it look prettier, because this is a visually stunning game in general. But yeah, either version that you pick up is still worth it. So yeah, pick it up. And I thought it was really weird. It's like all black here, all black there. On the side it's just solid green. That's weird. I don't know. Something I had noticed and thought was strange. Next we have Fatal Frame 2 Director's Cut. Now this is the premiere version of Fatal Frame 2. If you're going to pick one up and you have the choice, pick this one up because it's got extra content and that's always better. Next we have Dino Crisis 3. Now, I love Dino Crisis 1. I love Dino Crisis 2. I do not give two shits about Dino Crisis 3 whatsoever. Well, Dino Crisis 3 just so happens to take all the dinosaurs and throw them into space. What? Throwing the dinosaurs into space? Like, you have to be kidding me. Why would you throw them into space? But they did just that. And it's not very good. But yeah, I mean, it's not the worst game in the entire world, but as far as Dino Crisis goes, steer clear. Next we have Silent Hill 2. Restless Dreams. Now this actually adds in more story, like an actual complete like extra section. And again, if you're going to get a version of Silent Hill 2, I highly suggest getting this one. I don't know. I'd like it a whole lot over the regular PS2 version. So yeah, if you're going to get one, pick this one up. Next up, we have Xbox 360. Start off with Fear 2. Nothing really show on the back because I actually bought this from Hollywood Video when they were going out of business. So I have to go and get a new case for this. But anyway, Fear 2, they actually just brought out Fear 3, which I will be getting that. This is a really good game. I'm not going to bother showing the back. Here we go. That's better. Fear 2, the best thing about this game, one, the story is kind of confusing, but the best thing easily about this game is the atmosphere. It's like absolute chaos everywhere that you go. It's like there's poltergeists everywhere screwing with you, and the whole entire place looks like hell on earth. It's really cool and keeps you on your toes. I love this game a whole lot, so you should definitely pick this up. Next we have Condemned 2, Bloodshot. Now, if anybody ever saw the video game sticker video I made, there's those stickers for that. They're still there. But yeah, Condemned 2, this one is quite different from the first one. So depending on what you like, that's either a good thing or a bad thing. This one goes in a much more crazier type direction. It's further from realism. But yeah, I still enjoyed the game. It's another first-person game that you run around and it's all screwed up, but definitely worth checking out if you're bored. Next, we have Dead Space. I did a review on this game, and I raved about how great it was, and it is. It essentially is probably one of the best survival horror games that have come out in years. Awesome controls, just awesome everything. I would babble on about it for a long time, but if you get bored, just look at the review. I don't know. But yeah, this game, just amazing stuff. And part 2, again, that's also amazing, but this is the one that started it, so if you haven't played it, pick it up. Next we have the first Condemned, Criminal Origin. Now, I like this game because you got to do investigative parts, and the second one doesn't really have that, but this one does, and I like that, but they don't do it enough. I kind of wish that they would throw that back in there. There was a lot of things in it that are just, it's kind of spooky, but a lot of it, like, I don't know, the dudes that come after you, the crazy ones, they just come off as funny. I don't know why. I ended up laughing at a lot of things that happened in games, so it wasn't really scary, but it's still a decent game. So, yeah, check it out. Next we have Deadly Premonition. Now, this is a game that got terrible reviews. I actually avoided the game because I saw the reviews. And here's the thing, this is another one of those cases where all the journalists had their heads so far up their asses, there is no way for them to be able to see how awesome this game was. And it really is. If you look at the cover here, this is a misleading cover, to be honest. On the back here, I'll point him out, that is Agent York. That is the main character of this, and he is by far probably one of the most interesting video game characters ever. This game is not scary by any means. It does have like the horror theme to it, and it is supposed to be scary, but to me it's not scary at all. You'll play this game strictly for the story. The characters in it are just really amusing, and I don't know, I loved it for that. It's cheesy, but it's not cheesy, and it's funny, but it's not funny. I don't know, you would have to play it to completely understand what I'm talking about. It's hard to convey this, like, anything about this game, because it's really out there. So yeah, check this out. Please check this out, because I think it deserves a hell of a lot more attention. Next we move on to a much bigger box, Alan Wake. That's a big-ass box. It's a limited collector's edition. Now, this thing actually came with a book, because the main character in it, Alan Wake, is an author. But yeah, this game, I wasn't too sure what to think of this. I got this for dirt cheap and brand new, no less. It was, what was it, $15, and it was brand new. So I was just like, sure, why not? A lot of people, they didn't really care for the game. I thought it was pretty decent. It's got a very, very good storyline. That's probably one of the best aspects of it, which it should, because I'm sorry, if you include a book with a video game and story sucks, you're retarded. That's all there is to it. And they do a lot of things right in this game. The only thing is, none of the enemies are really scary. Like, the stuff that they throw at you, just nothing in it is scary. It's more annoying than anything. Like, just random objects like cars coming to life and being thrown at you for no reason isn't really scary. It's just, oh shit, here comes a car. That was close. But yeah, if you play this game, play for the story, because that's the best part about it and the most redeeming factor of it. Next, we move on to PS3. And first up, we have the first Fear game. Now, This came out a really long time ago. It was ported to PS3. I'm not much of a graphic hound by any means, but this is an ugly game. I'm sure if I played on PC and just turned up all the settings, I might say something different, but this is an ugly-ass game, especially compared to Part 2. But anyway, enough bashing the game. It's like Part 2, but not as good. That's all I can really say. Part 2 was a very good sequel because it built upon all the strengths that this one offered. So yeah, if you like Part 2 and haven't played Part 1, you should get around to it. Especially since Part 3 is out, because you should play it like all in a row. Hell, make a night of it. Next we have Resident Evil 5 Gold Edition. This includes all the extra stuff, but the Lost in Nightmares mode is the best reason to get this, because that is like the traditional Resident Evil part that I just love, and I actually wish that was the entire game. I also did a review of this game. If you get bored, check that out, but enough plugging my own videos. It's really good. I mean, it's not the best Resident Evil, but it's still a really good game, despite its flaws. I don't know. I wanted to go more back to zombies and biological monsters and everything, instead of, like, I don't know, a bunch of dudes running around with guns shooting at me, because it's not Gears of War. It's Resident Evil, so don't be Gears of War, be Resident Evil. Next, we have Dead Space 2 Limited Edition. Which, I don't know if you guys can see back there, I actually have the Dead Space box and the gun up on top of it. I just didn't want to bring that down because I'd have to move so much stuff around, but yeah, here goes the game. Really good. This pretty much took all the aspects that made the very first game as awesome as it was and built upon that. Though admittedly, this game isn't any better than the first one, but it's not any less either. If you like the first one, you'll definitely like this one. The best thing I would say about this is that it has more varied scenery and the tension's a lot higher. But yeah, awesome. Oh, and it has multiplayer too, which is pretty kick-ass. Next we have Dead Rising 2. Now, Dead Rising 2, a lot of fans had their complaints about the game, saying it wasn't as good as the first one. I enjoyed it a whole lot. Admittedly, I liked the first one better, but I think that's mostly because of the character Frank West. He was just a lot better. I don't know. They're actually bringing out another version of this that stars Frank West and changes the story of if he was the star of the game. So I think that's kind of neat, but in general, yeah. It's worth picking up by all means. This game is worth picking up. It's a lot of fun. Then the whole combining weapons together to make really unique things to go and kill enemies. Yeah, just mowing through zombies with all types of random shit is a lot of fun. So for that alone, this is worth picking up. Next up, we have a game that most people will be like, "You have that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was bored." Saw. I can make it look like it's my head. Look, I'm Jigsaw. Wanna play a game? Anyway, enough being a dork. Alright, so Saw essentially is like the movies, but I don't know. This game is not really that good. The puzzles in it, they repeat the puzzles all the time. The enemies in the game are essentially just crazy people running after you and lots of death traps and whatnot. It's not a scary game, it's more irritating than anything. So yeah. That's all. I don't know. Next up, we move on to Dreamcast, and first up on the list is Death Crimson OX. Or if you're reading it literally, it's Death Crimson Ox. This is a arcade shooter. It's a lot of fun though. A whole lot of fun. It actually took me a long time to find this game because I had never seen it in stores, to be honest. I finally tracked it down on Amazon.com and was worth every single penny, which was only $5. So yeah, definitely worth $5. Next, we have a game I haven't even opened. There goes price tag for it. It literally is still in the cellophane, and that's because I don't have a keyboard for the Dreamcast, unfortunately. So playing Typing of the Dead would be pointless because I don't have a keyboard. But take House of the Dead 2. Instead of using a gun, bang, you use a keyboard. Bang. See, the entire point to it is that words will pop up on screen. You type out the word as fast as you can, and as soon as you do it, you're hitting the enemy and damaging them. It is a quirky concept, but honestly, it is a ton of fun. I played it quite a few times, finally got my own copy, and no keyboard, which is unfortunate. The one that I did have, the wire got frayed and it doesn't work when it's plugged in. So yeah, when I do get around to it, I will be playing the living hell out of it. So yeah, fun stuff. Speaking of House of the Dead 2. This was my very first Dreamcast game. I won a Dreamcast when it first came out from a raffle, and this was a game that I picked up because I love the arcade game. And this essentially is just more and more awesome than the first one. It's just a lot of fun. If you've ever played an arcade shooter, this is one of the best. Literally, I'd rank this like in top 10 like arcade shooting games. A lot of fun, really good stuff. Pick it up. Next, we have Zombies Revenge. Zombies Revenge is kind of like... It's sort of like a beat-em-up in a way. You know, you find all these power-ups and everything, and you fight tons of monsters, zombies obviously, and other bosses and stuff, and you go into two-player mode, and it's a lot of fun. It is a very, very difficult game, though, just because, like, later stages, you get your ass handed to you. They're relentless, really. But yeah, this game, it's a lot of fun. I picked up for cheap, so yeah, you ought to check that out. Next, we have Carrier. Now, Carrier, I admittedly did not get very far into this, but from what I have played, it's not too bad. So whenever I do play more into it, I'll let you guys know. So yeah, not too bad. Next, we have Blue Stinger. This is one of the earliest Dreamcast games that they released. And this is one of those games, really cheesy voice acting, control, graphics are bad. In a lot of ways, that's some of the appeal behind the game. I don't know, I'm one of those people, I love budget horror movies and bad voice acting. And I like it because it's funny. I don't know, like, it's more comedic and amusing. I don't know, it's hard to explain why I like stuff like that, but if you talk to a lot of people that like stuff like that, they just like it, you know? And Blue Stinger is one of those games. I like it despite all of its flaws. Next we move on to another system, the PSP, which I only have one game for that survival horror at least. And that's Infected. Infected, tons of zombies, but the thing to note about this game is, try to show that off. If you can see there, that actually is a member of Slipknot. Not too often do members of a heavy metal band ever show up in a game, and Slipknot showed up in this. That's kind of neat. I wish that would happen more often. Like, have a zombie game and have Cannibal Corpse show up in the game. I would love that. That would be great. Next, we move on to another system I've only got one survival horror game for. Night Trap. This game is legendary for how bad it is, but also it's one of those games, because of how bad it is, that's why it has a fan following. And it's not bad in like the E.T. or Superman 64 type of way, it's just bad like laughably bad. Like, you just shake your head and like face palm at it. But yeah, Night Trap, if you play the game, you're essentially trying to stop burglars and murderers and whatnot from killing people, and you switch between cameras and whatnot. It's got, you know, actual actors and actresses. It's funny. And this is the Sega CD/32X version, so you need to have a Sega CD and 32X to get it, which is a pain in the ass. But this game literally was $1. I can't really complain when it's $1. And it had everything in it. It's even got like a little sticker for the company that made it. So yeah. And the person that included it, oddly enough, I'll show this off because I thought it was funny when I bought it. They took a magazine ad that included it. And I don't know, I just thought that was kind of neat that they included that. They also included another game on the back there. The game actually escapes me for... Oh, Corpse Killer, that was it. I completely forgot what it was, but yeah, Corpse Killer is on there. That game I don't have, unfortunately. We'll get it someday, but yeah, I thought it was neat that they had that in there. So this is a very complete version. But yeah, Night Trap, funny stuff. Next, we move on to the Sega Saturn. And for that, we will start off with one of my earliest survival horror games ever, but I played it the first time on PS1, and that's D. Yep, just D. That's all it's called. See? D. D. D is like those old school PC games where everything is like FMV, and you'll quickly like hit left or right or up or down, and the camera will shift real slowly and everything, and you will move a cursor around to interact with stuff, go to a menu, and it's a lot of puzzles and everything. Um, this game, when I played it when I was younger, I liked it. I tried playing it like a year ago, and it's so slow and boring. It's so ugly too. Like, wow. But yeah, that's D. D. Next, Resident Evil for Sega Saturn. Now, when I went through my Sega Saturn collection, I had mentioned this as being my favorite version of Resident Evil out of the PS1 and PS2, PS1 and Sega Saturn version, and it still holds true. I prefer this over the PS1 version because it has an additional monster and a battle mode. You can't really beat that, and oddly enough, some of the texture work in the game is way better. I don't know why, but yeah, Sega Saturn version is awesome. Also, it has a better cover. I like this one a lot better. Next, we have the sequel, I guess, to D. That's Enemy Zero. Now, you may be thinking, how the hell is that a sequel? But it actually has the main character in it still, so I guess it is a sequel. And it is all still first person, except for it's not all FMV. It's actually like a first person walk around type game. Yeah, I don't know. It's it's very there's nothing like extremely noteworthy to say about it, but yeah, it is what it is. Next, we have, in not very great condition, but I have it, House of the Dead. Now, the reason I say that this isn't in very great condition is because the manual is kind of beat up. I don't know if you guys can tell. That's there we go. It might be a little bit easier. See, it's all wrinkled and everything. But I mean, it's nice to actually have the manual. But yeah, I love this game way back when I was younger, and we played it in an arcade whenever I went to Kennywood. If you don't know what Kennywood is, it's an amusement park around here in Pittsburgh. But yeah, they had this there. I would drop tons of quarters into it. Love this game, and if you've got like, you know, a Sega Saturn and one of the guns, get this game. It's so worth it. Next, we move on to the GameCube, and we've got Resident Evil. Now, this essentially is a remake of Resident Evil 1. I about exploded in my pants. Just the announcement of this just had me giddy. But this is still, to this day, one of the nicest looking games that came out in that generation. Like, it's so beautiful looking, but they changed the story around. They included the dude that actually made the mansion into it. You know, that was actually a big part of the original Resident Evil story, but they didn't really do much with Spencer. They kind of just wrote him off. But they include him in this. They add in a whole lot, extra bosses, just extra areas. It's really, really good. They also have another version on the Wii, so if you get bored, either pick that up or pick this up. Both of them are dirt-ass cheap, so yeah. This one's way cheaper, though, so whatever. Next, we have one of my favorite GameCube games of all time, one of my favorite survival horror games of all time, Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. This game, one of the reasons why this game is so amazing is for one major reason, and that's you have a sanity meter, okay? So basically, if more and more stuff starts happening to you, it'll start driving you insane. If your sanity meter reaches max, you basically lose your mind. Once that happens, the developers, they made it so that really messed up things will happen, so messed up that, for instance, you'll be playing, your sanity meter just goes out of hand. Then all of a sudden, the game will just go black. And then it'll start up at the GameCube logo and go to, you know, the start screen. And you'll just be like, what the fuck? Why did my game reset? And you'll be all pissed off, then all of a sudden, you're right back to the game. And they include stuff like that, like the entire game will start melting and everything, like limbs will come off and start floating away, like you'll sink into the floor, like all types of crazy shit. This game is awesome for that alone, really clever. I'd love to see a sequel to this. One of the games I've wanted a sequel for years. So yeah, Nintendo, please get on that. Next, we have another Resident Evil game for GameCube. Resident Evil 0. Now, this one actually stars Rebecca, who was in the original Resident Evil, never to be seen again until this in The Mercenaries. But this is the starring role for her. This was actually originally conceived on a Nintendo 64. They scrapped it and made for GameCube, luckily, because it turned out awesome. The way that Resident Evil and this Resident Evil looks carries over to this very well. An extremely awesome game. They did away with the item box, which was kind of weird. So you have to drop items on the floor. It's kind of strange. I don't know. But Billy Cohen, the dude that they introduced right there, is a really kick-ass character, and he's somebody I would like to see come back in Resident Evil because he has been around forever. Next, we have the used-to-be exclusive Resident Evil 4. Now, out of all the Resident Evil 4s, this is the worst version, and I don't say worst like, you know, it's a bad game, but I mean, this has the least amount of content because they made upgraded versions on the PS2 and on the Wii and on PC, and they're making another version with an HD remake. So yeah, this has the least amount of content, but really awesome. And it's kind of funny because it says only for GameCube. Chuckle, chuckle. No, it wasn't. Now we move on to the Nintendo Wii. And first on Nintendo Wii, it's Resident Evil 4! Funny, you look so familiar. Anyway, so Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition. This is the version that you played on Resident Evil 4 on PS2. Well, that's this, but you can now use the Wii remote, and it controlled so much nicer. It really did. One of the few games that really utilized the Wii remote in a way that made the game like more fun to play. So yeah, if you play a version, play this. It's just great. Next, we have Silent Hill: Shattered Memories. Now, this is kind of like a remake of Silent Hill 1. The team does an adequate job. I'll say that. They do a lot of interesting aspects, but at the same point, they do change some things for the worse, like the fact that everything's frozen over in ice and everything. And to them, they had their own logic and reasoning behind it, but it's not scary. And whenever you enter a world and instantly turns ice, you know that something bad's going to happen. So that took the horror aspect out of it for me. And I'm sorry, it just, I don't know, it kind of looks like I'm running around in an ice cube filled world. That's just not scary. Cold, not scary. Next up, we have Resident Evil: The Dark Side Chronicles. Now, if you played the Umbrella Chronicles, this is the sequel to it and is amazingly awesome. Love this game a whole lot. There's a lot of content in this. This actually takes you through quite a few of the Resident Evils. It takes you through Resident Evil, Resident Evil 2, and I think Resident Evil Code, yeah. So Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil Code Veronica. Sorry, I get them all mixed up. But really great game. I went through, I pretty much got every single thing that you can in this game and played it to death. I played it for like a week straight and got every single thing. But yeah, love this game. Definitely worth picking up and adding to your Wii collection. Also, we have Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. Just mentioned that. This will take you through a couple other Resident Evil games. It's just a really good game. If you like arcade shooters and you haven't played this, definitely worth checking out. They have so many different stages and it's challenging. Plus it's 2 players, so pick them up, both, definitely. Next we have House of the Dead 2 and 3 Return. Now originally House of the Dead 3 was only on Xbox, but then they brought it out for the Nintendo Wii, which is great. The only thing that sucks though is that the Sega Saturn House of the Dead and the arcade version House of the Dead did not make its way onto this, and that's because apparently the source code is too hard for them to be able to attain and put onto current games, which is unfortunate. But this was a good package deal. If you liked House of the Dead 2 and House of the Dead 3, pick this up because this has both. Speaking of House of the Dead, we have House of the Dead Overkill. Now, this kind of game here, it's not like the other House of the Deads. This is more like imagine if Quentin Tarantino made a House of the Dead game. That's what this is like right here. It's just a lot of fun. The story and all the voice actors in it, I don't know, they just made the game a whole lot of fun. I loved the hell out of it though. Worth every buck. Alright, well, that pretty much wraps it up for all of my survival horror games. Now, granted, there are other games out there that I want to get that are survival horror and genre, and I don't have them yet, but I will someday. But, yeah, I've amassed a collection, and it's literally 75 games. That's quite a bit for just one genre. I love them all, but genuinely, I'd have to stack up games like Resident Evil 2 and Silent Hill 2 and everything like that as like the premier games that you must have. You know, throw Dead Space up there because it's fantastic. But yeah, it's such a good genre. I just wish that the current gen and consoles had more survival horror games because I mean, PS2 had so many. It was just ridiculous. Xbox had quite a few. Now we have pretty much like next to nothing. It's a genre I don't want to see die off. I definitely like games that are supposed to be scary in atmosphere and like they jump out and try to like just grab a hold of you and like scare the pants off of you. And that's just awesome. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed seeing the collection, all the games I've amassed over the years, played through and enjoyed the living hell out of that. A lot of you may have also played through. So yeah, comment about whatever games I went over down below, any feelings that you have on them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, as always, game the fuck on.